when we're talking about strategy with clients, it's really, we're thinking about how do we differentiate them in the minds of their buyers and also in the marketplace. So the differentiation is the why, the who, and the what. And we're really building out a growth model here. So the growth strategy that we're building out is very much data driven. It's got KPIs in place at every stage. Hello and welcome everyone to the AskDME live show for April 2021. This is episode 3. We've gone back to the Q&A format for this show, so please make sure you get engaged with us, especially if you're watching through LinkedIn, through the LinkedIn event we've set up for the show. You'll see there's a chat in the event where you can engage with us live during the show and throughout the show. So any questions you've got, anything you want to know, as we go through, we've got some questions that have been sent in. A couple were DM'd to me through LinkedIn and others were emailed to us. So we had a great response to the asking for questions around developing a modern growth strategy and how to measure that strategy. So that's really the focus of this show. Each of the Q&A shows, we're going to try and have a topic that we focus on to really help people grow their businesses more effectively and more predictably. So make sure you engage with it. The whole point of this is to give you value. You know, the next 40 minutes is going to be really focused on just answering your questions and giving you as much value as we can in that time. So I hope you enjoyed the last show, episode 2 with Dan Tyre from HubSpot. I know I've had some great feedback from that show. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it and enjoy his passion. Even though he was getting up at 4:30 in Arizona, he certainly gave us everything he had. So let's continue it with this show and we'll get on to the questions. And the first of the questions is, can we get on to the data? That's perfect. Thank you. Do I really need a growth strategy if I have a marketing strategy in place? So again, the strategic thinking is what should be driving your tactics in your growth, in my opinion. And certainly when we work with clients, we're always focusing on that strategic thinking first, because the formula for business growth is always driven at the strategy at the first, and the strategy will then drive the marketing tactics, your sales process, your sales strategy, and the systems that pull all of this together so you can measure your growth and make sure that everything you're doing is working, and certainly identify what's working well for you and things that you need to optimize to improve. So strategy leads all of that. By planning this out and spending time at the start in planning out an effective growth strategy, it really will make all the tactics obvious to you. You'll be able to identify everything that you're doing and why you're doing it and what results you're expecting. So you're measuring all of that. So yes, I would say, even though you have a marketing strategy, as you can see here, marketing is only part of our growth, isn't it? That lead generation and driving the right traffic to our businesses and attracting the right people to our businesses is only part of it. They then have to go through a sales process. We have to qualify them. We have to know they're a good fit for what we offer, and measure the effect of that. So marketing strategy is important, of course it is, and a lot of your efforts in the lead generation and traffic will be focused on marketing, but make sure you look at the wider picture as well. And I think this is the change that we're all going through. And certainly the last year with COVID and lockdown, we've had this accelerated. There's been this real digital leap. And I think a lot of us now have a more modern business model where we're trying to put the customer and the buyer at the heart of everything we do. And marketing, sales, our service and support, all of that revolves around our customer, so that the customer experience is what we're focusing on. So reducing friction and adding force to speed up that process is what will accelerate our growth. So again, we need to plan a strategy out to deliver that for us. The old business funnel model, it may still be there in some way in your sales processes, things like that, but actually as a business growth model, it's quite an antiquated way of looking at business growth, because everything's top heavy and about us. Everything's about driving as much awareness as possible and hoping some of that turns into interest and desire, and then a few of those turn into customers. Really now everything should be revolving around the customers, understanding who they are, who's a good fit buyer for what you do as a business, whether you're in a B2C market, whether you're a non-profit, or you're in the B2B, you're selling your services as solutions to other businesses. Having that buyer centrally in your mind, that person who's a really good fit for what you do and what you offer, is key to your business growth, because you want to be spending all your time talking to those people. So when we're talking about strategy with clients, it's really, we're thinking about how do we differentiate them in the minds of their buyers and also in the marketplace. So the differentiation is the why, the who, and the what. And we're really building out a growth model here. So the growth strategy that we're building out is very much data driven. It's got KPIs in place at every stage. We've got metrics in place that we're measuring so we can see what's working and what isn't working, as I've just said. And then we really do focus in on all these areas when we're developing a growth strategy with a client. So what are the business goals? We then break the business goals, so the overall goals, which will usually be revenue driven. So we want to make 500,000 additional revenue or net new revenue in the next year. It might be £1 million revenue growth we're looking for. And then we'll break that down into marketing and sales. So aligning marketing and sales together around that revenue goal, and then developing the marketing strategy alongside the sales strategy as well. Also, there's the cultural things, there's the vision, the mission, the values and culture that are in the business. How do we tell that story? Because we engage with our hearts still with businesses, as much as we want to think it's a black and white decision because it's so digital and we're doing all our research online. There's still things that we fall in love with companies. There's things that we really relate to, that we feel they engage with us and they really tick our boxes. So again, getting your vision, your mission, values and culture, everything aligned around your growth strategy is really important. And then how do you reflect that with your visual brand, with the copy you use on your website, with the tone of voice you use on social media, how you engage with people, your strapline, your tagline, how does that connect with that buyer? And then how do you use positioning statements to differentiate who you are and who you can help more effectively than anybody else in the market? So again, having positioning statements is really key with modern business growth, we feel. And having your offerings as well, a primary offering that you're putting in front of your buyers, really clearly defined, so that you're not trying to offer everything to everybody in the marketplace. You really are understanding who your best fit person is, what their pain points are, what the problems are that they're facing, and you have an offer or a product or a solution or a service positioned squarely in front of that person. So it's really easy for them to identify what you do well. Then you go down the who side of things. So when you're developing a strategy out on the who side, we're looking at the target market and the sectors that you do really well. So what are the sectors, what are the companies that you help? Or if you're in a B2C environment, what part of the general public do you help? Let's define who they are. And that really is driven firstly by analyzing your existing customers. If all of you have been in business for years now, you'll be able to analyze your existing customers. You've passed 50, past 100 customers who've gone through your business, and you'll be able to identify who's a really good fit for what you do. So a lot of the information that you need to develop out your strategy will be driven from information and data you already have on your existing customer base. So spend time analyzing them and identifying what a good person looks like, what a good fit looks like for your business. And that'll save you a lot of time. That'll also help you identify CLV and COCA, which is customer lifetime value. So how often does a customer purchase off you? So is someone a customer of yours for 3 years? Are they a customer for one purchase and then they disappear? And also, what's the cost of customer acquisition? So how much is it costing you to acquire each new customer? Now, these are important metrics to be measuring because they'll affect how much you spend on your marketing. How much you spend on attracting new customers is driven by those metrics. And then you can analyze the competitive landscape. So what are your top 5 competitors nationally, internationally? And most of us working in a digital space have international competition. So where we used to, and I think Dan touched on this in the last show, where we used to have 3 or 4 local competitors, we now maybe have 40 competitors that we're competing against. So again, you can see the importance of differentiating our offering and your offering from everybody else out in the market. So do that competitive landscape study. And then define and segment your existing audience. So segmenting your audience using a CRM, using some sort of system that you can segment customers who've bought off you once, customers who are multiple purchasers, customers who've been with you a long time, new customers, and then splitting it up by service, product, solution. All of the different types of customers you have is really important, because that intelligence will again show you the sweet spot of the type of customer that you want to attract to the business. So this is all really important, as it's going to drive your tactics once you come to execution of this strategy. Then the buy-in cycle. So again, how long's your buy-in cycle? Ask yourself that question. Is it a few weeks for someone to make a purchasing decision? Is it a few months, or is it a year? I mean, we have clients that it can take 18 months for decisions to be made in their businesses. So again, you need to take that into account when you're planning out your business growth, and certainly when it's relating to revenue goals, because you know there's how long it's going to take for actually money to hit the bank from initial contact with a lead or someone coming into your system. So very important. And then the buying persona. Who are these people? Let's define who these people are, what their pain points are, what are the sources of information, where do they go online to find information, how do they do the research, what questions do they ask, what social media platforms do they use, what content do they need to make a buying decision. All of this is really important, as it drives everything else. If you think about it, that's your whole content strategy there, all set out and laid out. So understanding those buyer personas and the journey they go on when they make a buying decision is key. And that's all developed in having a good, effective business growth strategy at the start. And then your pricing, really, you must be as transparent as you can about pricing, because if we can't find the information we need when we go on your website about pricing, we can't work out how much it's going to cost, then we end up going to your competitor or going to somebody else's website. So let's be transparent. Let's have discussions about pricing. Even if you offer a range of prices, at least be fairly transparent on pricing, because it's that honesty, it's that trust and authority piece that being honest about pricing really gives. So make sure your strategy breaks down what products you're offering, what services you're offering, what solutions you're offering, and who you're offering those to. So people go through a journey, and that when they hit your website, they find relevant information that's going to help them make a buying decision. So hopefully that's really, in 5 or 10 minutes, has given you why we spend so much time in the initial 4 weeks working with any client, getting that strategy in place, and why everybody who's on this show should start sitting down and thinking through their own growth strategy and covering every element. It needs to be a closed loop reporting from where the traffic comes from right through to the revenue generated. You should know everything that's happening in between there. So again, make sure that's strategy first, and then that's driving your tactics. And here's some of the areas that I would recommend you focus on. These are the 12 areas we would focus on when we're developing a strategy for a client, a growth strategy. So identifying the goals, revenue-wise, putting figures next to them, breaking those revenue goals down into SMART goals. So how's marketing and sales and customer service? What cross-sells and upsells can we generate? What referrals do we want? All of this has got to be broken down by the different areas of your team, so everyone's aligned around that revenue goal. Then the market analysis I've talked about, analyzing your buyer personas, building out your content strategy from there. So what pieces of content, what videos need creating, what blog posts need writing, what articles, what guides, what conversion offers do you need to develop, PDFs, guides, things to support people in the early stages of a buyer's decision, all the way through to making the final decision. So reviews, testimonials, all of these things are part of your content strategy. Your website development, so having critical looks at your website. So every 3 months you're developing your website, and it's an ongoing process. This growth-driven design that's being pushed now in web development is there for a reason. It shouldn't be a one-off thing that you do. It should be constantly looking at the data, how people are engaging with your website, what content they're engaging with on your website, what pages they're engaging with, what they're finding useful, and you constantly evolve your website on the back of that. So website development to me is an ongoing thing. It's not a one-off thing. And then developing your SEO strategy, your pillar content, your topics, your topic clusters. So pillar content is the main topic that you want to be known for, and having plenty of content around there that people can engage with and read and really educate themselves. I always think it's very educational and solution content. And then around that will be blog posts and videos. That'll be your topic clusters that will support that main pillar content you've created. And then obviously you're going to understand where your buyers are and where your prospects are on social media. So are they Facebook users? In a B2C environment, they probably will be. In LinkedIn, in B2B, they'll probably be on LinkedIn. They'll use Twitter. They'll probably use YouTube for video content. So again, understanding your social media strategy is connecting straight back to that buyer persona. And then your content strategy is delivering the right content to that person on the right platform. And very much the conversational strategy, which we'll talk about later, that was one of the questions we had asked, was how to develop an effective conversational strategy. And we are all communicating with companies in multiple ways now. So again, that will be driven by your knowledge of your persona, making sure you align how you communicate with them with how they want to communicate with you. And again, it's that removing friction. It's making it as easy as possible for them to engage with you, to go through your sales process, or just to find out the information that they need to know. So again, conversational strategy should be part of your overall growth strategy. And then building out your conversion paths. So a landing page, calls to action, thank you pages, all these processes as people come through your website, to make sure that every point is being measured for conversion. So how many people are coming through your website and how many of those actually convert into leads in your CRM or database. And that's all done through conversion paths and very measurable routes through your website and giving them the relevant information that they're looking for. And then lead nurturing and customer marketing. So once they're in our CRM, how do we then engage with them? Through email content, through regular email sequences that just nurture relationships with new leads and just slowly lead them hand by hand through that buying process. So you're answering their questions, giving them more content until they become a customer of your business. And then once they're a customer, of course, it's not over. Customer marketing is huge now, because they're happy customers are the people who will give you referrals of their friends. They will also give us cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Once they love what you do, they buy more off you. So that's just something that has to be built into your strategy. How much are we looking to generate from our existing customer base towards our revenue goal? So get your customer marketing in place, and then we've got reviews that we'd like them to give, testimonials, case studies, things like that that existing customers can give us. And then how do we pull all that together? We're using marketing software, automation tools. How do we leverage technology to make sure our growth is very transparent? We can see everything that's happening in our business growth. And that will then lead to metrics, reporting, and analytics. So we're constantly producing reports on the key metrics, our key KPIs for growth. And that's all, as I say, driven by having an effective strategy first, and then allowing that to dictate your tactics. So hopefully that's been a comprehensive answer of that question. Yes, marketing strategy is important, so it's part of it, but I would say it's a small part of the overall growth strategy that you're trying to develop and then measure and evolve as you go through your business growth. So the 5 questions that we would ask with clients whenever we sit down with them, so make a note of these, or obviously if you're watching it on the replay, you can just pause the video here. What are my goals for growth? And be really specific with revenue. I always say get a specific figure in mind. This is where we are now, and this is where we want to be in 12 months. And then after that, in 24 months, 36 months. So really map out your revenue growth goals. What are your challenges to growth? So again, we always really dig into challenges with clients. What are the challenges they see to growth? And then we'll find out ways that the strategy can overcome those challenges. What's my time scale for growth? So again, where do I want to be in 12 months, 36 months, in the next 2 years? What gaps do I have? So it's usually resources, technology, digital transformation. So there's areas of the business that need to transform to achieve this growth. So again, identifying the gaps at the early part in your strategy is key, because then you can start putting in place a plan to fill those gaps. So it may be recruitment, you need to recruit more people. It may be outsourcing, that you want to bring in external expertise to help you fill those gaps to make sure that your growth goals are hit. And then what are the key metrics and KPIs for success? So again, the last question that we're going to go through today in this show is all about the key metrics to be measuring for your growth. So we'll go through that. But these are the ways to be thinking about your strategy. Right, so that nicely leads us on to question 2, which was sent in, which was, how do I work out which prospects are the best ones for me to target for my business? So initially, I was just going to start going through buyer personas, ideal customer profile, which is the way we would identify it. But I think a lot of the information, as I said earlier, is actually in our existing customer base. If we've been in business for any period of time, we have existing customers. So when we're trying to identify the people to focus on, and the way we're always trying to do it with clients is say, you know, we're not trying to appeal to everybody here. We're trying to be a real expert in helping one buyer persona solve one pain point, and then we start helping another buyer persona, and then we'll help sectors and industries. So we build it up that way. So step 1 for me is always identifying what a good fit person looks like. What does a good fit lead look like? A good fit customer. Who benefits the most from your services? Who benefits the most from using your product? Who is someone that you enjoy working with? That can be just as important to identify a good fit person, you know, as the clients that you don't want to work with or the people you don't want to work with. A lot of us will say, oh, no, I remember this client and I don't want to work with anyone like that again. And that to me is often saying that was a poor fit. That wasn't a good fit for what you do. So a lot of the friction that you probably felt with that in that instance was probably generated because it wasn't quite the right fit. So again, identifying fit to me is key. And in our workshops, we have a good fit matrix that we go through with people on the workshops. And certainly if you haven't done the Grow Your Leads and Revenue Masterclass yet, I go through in there how to develop a good fit matrix. So I'll share the link at the end of this show for that. Thank you, Rachel. She's popped it up there. And I think we've also put the link in the LinkedIn chat as well, in the event chat as well. So if you want to go through to that, it's a 6-video course where we go through this. And identifying fit and a good fit is one of the key things we look at in that masterclass training. And then once we've got our list of good fit people, then we need to identify people who are actually in the active identifying sales readiness, which I think is active or passive buyers. So an active buyer is clearly in the process of making a buying decision. So you can tell from the content they're consuming on your website, the questions they're asking, that they are clearly looking to make a decision and are in the buying process. You may have passive buyers who come through your website who may buy in 6 months' time, but they're not going to be buying now. So you need a way of qualifying, identifying them, still keeping relationships with them. Remember, they could very well become a customer in 6 months' time. So you want to give value, share useful content, and slowly lead them towards that point. But I would say, are they a good fit? And are they in an active buying cycle at the moment? And then the third thing we would always try and identify is how engaged are they with us as a brand? What do they know about us as a company? What do they know about us as a business? So again, through the content they're consuming, you can see that somebody's, certainly through HubSpot, what we use, you can see that somebody's read 3 of your blog posts. He's downloaded the guide. He's also engaged with you on social media. You know, these are all when we're lead scoring a lead to say this is a really good fit lead we need to be talking to. These are the engagement things we're looking for. So you can have good fit people who aren't engaged with you yet. You know, and I would say that stays with us as a marketing. On the marketing side of things, we need to engage with them more and get that engagement going. So when they're a good fit, they're in an active buying cycle and they're engaged with our business. So we know they know what we're about. They've been consuming our content so we can tell what their intent is and where they are in their learning. So they've been educating themselves before they've even reached out to us. Then we know that that's a really good fit person, and that's where we would be focusing all of our time. And certainly when you're setting up a strategy, try and get that in your own business. Try and get those 3 questions ticked. Yes, they're a really good fit for what we do. They fit our product perfectly. They're actively buying and they're engaged with us as a brand, because that's not a cold call then, that's a very warm call. Even if you pick the phone up to that person and reach out to them, you're going to have a really good productive conversation with them, because they're ticking those boxes and they are actively buying. You're not trying to convince someone, all of this. And one of the questions later on is about being salesy. I think it's when we still have this cold call mentality of just call as many people, and this volume mentality. No, let's identify the ones who are our best fit and spend all our time talking to them. So hopefully that answers that question. I will touch on ideal customer profile, because we will always go through this with clients and say, looking through all your client base, let's identify sectors. So an ideal customer profile in a B2B sector, it'll be the size of company, the industry they work in. So it may be a tech company with over 20 employees with a turnover of £1 million. And then we'd say geographically, where do they live? So that would be an ideal customer profile of the company. And then within that company, who's the buyer persona we need to be in front of? Who are the decision makers? Initially, who would you be talking to? So who would you sit around the table with to get the initial conversation going? Now, in most business decisions, there's going to be 4, 5, 6 other people in a decision-making group who are brought in, and we will build out buyer personas for them over time. But initially, all I want to do is know, who are we going after? Is it a HR person? Is it an IT manager? Is it operations? Is it a marketing manager? Is it sales managers? Who's that buyer persona we need to be in front of and start the conversations with? So it's a very, very specific person in a specific industry in specific companies, because then you can list out the 200-300 companies that are in that sector that fit your criteria for ideal customer profile, and then say, right, now, how do I get in front of every HR manager in those companies? And it's very much the same on B2C. If you're looking for homeowners in Lincolnshire, you can define their buyer persona. You can say, right, what does a first-time buyer look like? What does a first-time seller look like? What does a family buyer look like? What's the gender of the first person we talk to? Is it male? Is it female? And again, we're looking for the low-hanging fruit here. We're not discounting other people, because I know a lot of people we speak to say, oh, we appeal to multiple people. I'll say, yeah, but there's be one standout. I can guarantee when we look through all the money you made last year and the year before, there'll be one standout, and that's where you start your strategy, focusing on that person and understanding everything about them as well as they understand themselves. So what are the pain points? What are the triggers for them to start making inquiries and doing research? What questions are they asking? These are all really important things, so that your strategy, again, is focused on that person and understanding them and delivering a solution for them better than anybody else in your market. Okay, and then once we know who the buyer persona is, it really leads nicely into this second question, or third question we're on to now. How do I build relationships with leads without coming across as selly? Now, I think all of us realize that in the modern age, where people are doing their own research online, as soon as we come across as pushy or selly and we're not helping people to make the right decision for them, then they either block us, or they won't talk to us, or they just literally disconnect with us, or it can do damage actually to your reputation as a business. And I think there's a lot when I get a lot of these LinkedIn connection requests that come with a massive sales message as soon as I've connected with someone. I think, that's actually damaging your reputation. You're not finding anything out about me as a person. You're just straight in, and it's just a volume mentality again. It's this interrupting what I'm doing and trying to get a conversation started with a pushy, salesy approach. And it just doesn't work. It just does not work nowadays, and it does more damage than good. So again, we try and get people away from this and start thinking about how can we be helpful. So the old, this is Glenn Ross, and he was in that was the old sales approach of always be closing mentality, the ABC. And the mentality nowadays is always be helping people. Whether they become customers or not shouldn't really be a determining factor. It's how helpful can you be to help them make the right decision for them. And if that's to use you and you build trust and authority with people, then 80% of people will use you anyway, because that's been your approach from the start. You've been helping them make the right decision for them, and that builds this empathy, it builds understanding, and it builds a real loyalty into everything you're doing as well, even at the lead stage before they become a customer. So again, understanding that buyer persona is important to that, isn't it? Because then once we understand them And once we start talking, and one of the first things we'll always do when we work with any client is we talk to the sales team and we say, going through the sales process, what are the questions that buyers ask you? And this is really important for us because we want to answer those questions in content. We want a content strategy driving out there. So every piece of content that anyone's consuming for that client then becomes a piece of helpful content that's giving people value. And it's really making sure that we're answering those questions people are asking. And then where are they asking those questions? Are they asking them on forums? Are they asking them on social media? Are they sending them through on email to you? Are they asking them in the first meeting your sales people have? Because most salespeople will tell you they get asked 80% of the questions they get asked in that first sales meeting they ever have with anybody are the same. So why are we not producing content for that? Why have we not produced a guide to help them? Why have we not produced videos to answer these questions? So that first meeting you have with people, that first contact you have with someone that's a meaningful sales conversation is all about how you can move them along that sales process. A lot of their questions are being answered. And it's that third one there. What are the main fears, reasons, and concerns that would stop someone buying from you is just as important as convincing someone to buy from you. If you can address their main fears, and if you ask people who didn't actually order with you, can we just do a quick survey? Why didn't you use us? Why did you choose them? And start understanding more of that. And that's, again, your customer service team doing that, making sure that we're following those up and really understanding as much why people didn't buy off us as we do why people did buy off us. And again, that means you can just produce content to address those fears, those concerns. If it's price led, you can add more value in, you can show how you build the value up, and you can address all of that, because that's some of the issues that may come up at the end, and some of the questions that people are asking are actually just them a bit scared. They haven't got the information that they need to make a decision. And then understanding what their buyer journey is the key thing. So we will run through a buyer journey, and in our workshops we spend a lot of time doing this as an activity, because as people go through a buying journey, they go through a similar sort of process. Now, we've simplified it down to 3 stages. I've read books where people have 14 or 15 different stages. There's pre-awareness stages. There's lots of different stages you can go through when you make a buying decision. But in my mind, if we get these 3 stages right, most of the time that will help people move along. So awareness is the stage where we're first realizing we've got a problem, we've got a pain, we've got an opportunity we want to realize, and we start trying to frame that. We start trying to give it a name. We start trying to understand it. So we do a lot of general research. We'll be watching videos, we'll be on Google doing research, we'll be on social media, just really trying to understand the problem we've got. Then we move into the consideration stage. So we now understand, this is the problem I've got, this is the opportunity I've got. What are my options now to solve that problem or realize that opportunity? So in the consideration stage, we're now refining all of our different options. So this is where we might get a short list of 3 or 4 companies. We'll be out visiting people's websites. We'll be gathering as much information as we can so we make the right decision. We'll also be asking more specific questions about that pain point. So where we were quite general in the awareness stage, we're now getting very specific about what we're asking. So that really is going to help us then refine our options. And that's really why we're 70% of the way through our journey before we ever reach out to companies nowadays. We're not picking the phone up anymore. We're on their website. We're getting as much information as we can. And then we may make an inquiry. We may start actually saying, right, I want to speak to you and I want to speak to you. And this, to me, is the problem with trade shows. They're going to come back. We know post-COVID, there'll be shows, there'll be events going on. But when I actually dig into how much they cost people versus how many real leads they get at these shows, it's quite a disparity, because most people are going to the trade shows and they've already made a decision of the 3 or 4 vendors they want to meet. So as I say, it can be a real problem for people because they spend 40, 50, 60,000 pounds to attend this trade show and they maybe come back with 2 leads from it that actually turn into any business down the line. So again, where you put your money is really being driven by understanding that buyer and their buyer's journey and how they make a decision. And then at decision stage, we're really trying to underline we've made the right decision here. So that's where we start looking at reviews online. We'll look at testimonials. We'll maybe look at a few case studies. These are all the things that are just underlining that, yeah, I want to use this company, but what do other people think about them? Because again, I don't believe what you tell me about your company. I believe what other people who've experienced you actually tell me about them. So hopefully that is something that makes sense to you why it's so important to understand who that buyer is and then what journey they go on as they move along, engaging with you and connecting with you. And then you really align your sales process with those stages. So we've got the awareness, consideration, and decision stage at the bottom here. And you can see how a stranger becomes a lead in our CRM, how we're then qualifying the lead, sharing content with them, we're engaging with them, we're connecting with them. So we maybe have a 15-minute connect call just to understand them, not to sell anything at this stage. We're just saying, oh, saw you've been on the website, downloaded a few of the guides. Did you get everything you needed? What are you looking to achieve? And really getting that initial connect call to see if it's then worth proceeding to a longer exploratory call where we're going to really dig into being a bit more diagnostic about what their problems are. And then maybe towards the end of that exploratory call, these are some of the solutions we have that may help you, Mr. Prospect, to make the right decision for you in this situation. And that's then turning them into an opportunity. And then you're doing your advised stage, which is probably a solutions presentation. It may be a Zoom call. It may be a meeting with a wider board or a wider decision-making group. And that's really leading that decision-making. At the end of that, you should have a yes or a no. And by then, they should want to work with you. Really, I think by the time you're doing all the work for a solutions presentation, you should leave that solutions presentation and everybody should think, yeah, we want to work with them. And it's just the same in B2C. We go through this process slightly differently when we're dealing with members of the public, or we're having a sales conversation with a member of the public in a business to consumer environment. But it's actually the same thing. We're sort of connecting and exploring their problems and then offering solutions on the back of that. So again, that's aligning with how they make buying decisions now. So hopefully that makes sense and answers that question for you. And that stat still is as true, probably higher than that now, that 74% of buyers choose the company that was first to add value and insight into their buying journey. So again, it just shows you why when you get this right, everything's in your favor. Everything's stacked in your favor by the end of this process. So conversational strategy, what are we on time-wise, Rach? 36 minutes, yeah. So we've got 2 more questions to answer, fairly quick ones as well. So anyone got any questions? Any questions coming through on the LinkedIn event chat, Rach? I'll keep an eye on the chat in here anyway as well. So conversational strategy. That's systems. Let me have a look about systems. Oh, you've answered that one. Great. So let's talk about conversational strategy. Now, it's something that we build into when we develop a strategy with a client. And a conversational strategy is really, again, it's very much driven by understanding that buyer persona. So how do people want to engage with us? Not how do we want to make it available to people to engage with us, but once we understand who that persona is, what are the best channels that we can make available for them to communicate with them? So I think this message here is delivering the right message to the right person at the right time on the right channel. That should be at the heart of your conversational strategy. So thinking about all the different touch points you have with people, potential people, customers, even employees and partners, meetings in person, on the phone, people calling you, video chats. Obviously, Zoom calls now have become the huge thing over the last year. How do you use your chatbot on the website? Has it actually been thought out, all the different questions you can answer on a chatbot? The chatbots we use through HubSpot allow you to have specific bots for different URLs. So on the pricing and product page, you can have a chatbot that just talks about pricing, just talks about your services, and gives lots of Q&A through your chatbot there. If it's on different pages, you can have maybe an offer, a conversion offer come up, or a guide come up that's going to be useful to people. So again, thinking through what questions people ask you on your homepage, what people ask you on different pages can really help you to craft a really good conversational strategy using a chatbot. And a lot of that can be automated and then kick into live chat if it gets to a certain stage where they haven't answered, or there's been a number of questions asked and you think, right, now is the time for it to kick into live chat and someone to be live on there, then you can have live chat kick in as well. So chatbots and live chat, if they're done badly, we've all experienced that, where it's just, You know, it's just like talking, it's just like a sandstorm, isn't it? You just talk to this chatbot and nothing happens because no one's thought it out. They've just literally plonked it on the website. So think through how you talk, what questions you'd be are asked regularly, how you can answer those on different pages on your website, and then set your chatbots up there. How do you engage with people through email? How do you use Messenger? So certainly B2C, Facebook Messenger is a great way of communicating with people and engaging with people. And then how do you engage through social media? So how do you take direct messages in? Do you have a central inbox that everybody can see? So if an inquiry comes in through LinkedIn or an inquiry comes in through Twitter or there's a comment on YouTube, you all see it. So again, just making sure that you have all your different channels covered, but really align them to saying what are the 2 or 3 main ways that we get contacted by customers and contacted by buyers. And it may be that you still have people walk through your door regularly. You know, I'm sure over the last year it probably hasn't happened, but it will start again. So again, what are all of your touch points and how do you make those remarkable? So you're always getting that preferred way that the person wants to communicate with you. And again, it's back to what we said earlier about removing friction. You know, the more friction free that we can make this engagement with people, then the more successful we're going to be and the faster our business will grow. Okay, so that's really conversational strategy. It's just thinking it through channel by channel rather than just having a blanket. Oh, we'll have our phone number on there, we'll have a contact us page and maybe throw a chat button on. You know, think it through from the buyer's point of view, how people prefer to contact you. And then metrics, underlining all of this. And we said right at the start, one of the key things to this is having some sort of system, some analytics. So every step of the way, you've got metrics in place to measure your business growth. So it's really predictable. You can see what's working, and then you can focus in on the roadblocks. Where are we, you know, what's preventing us growing in even quicker? What are the areas that were really working well? And if we invest more into that, it'll just accelerate and scale up our growth. So all of that is really important that we're measuring that. Just having a quick look here on questions. Yeah, I'll certainly talk about that towards the end as well. And probably that question, Gary's asking, as a new user of HubSpot, he's obviously using the software. What key features should I use to help growth? So again, I'll talk about that a bit at the end, Gary, and what time we have, but I'll also give you a heads up that the next live show in May, on May the 19th that we've actually got a guest coming in, and Rachel, our HubSpot, our internal HubSpot expert, is going to be on that show as well. So we're going to have 2 people on who will answer any question about CRM, systems, processes, anything that's HubSpot specific, of course, we will answer. We're trying not to make it just all about HubSpot. It's going to be generally about how to use systems and technology. But certainly on that show, we will take this question, Gary, and we'll have that as question number 1 to put to them. So let's get back onto the business metrics. The way I would do it, and certainly if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. It's one of the sayings that I really like and is so true in business. The more we can measure, the more predictable everything becomes. So the way I would do it is reverse engineering. I said at the start about having that specific growth goal for the next 12 months and having a number there. Once you've got that specific number, you've got one of your first metrics. You're either going to hit that or you're not. So how are you going to measure that revenue? That revenue should be increasing. This is net new revenue. Remember, this isn't revenue that you're already making last year. This is our net new goal this year is to add another 500,000 onto our goal onto our business turnover and our revenue. Then work out what your average order value is. So what's the average order value from your last 50, your last 100 orders? So work out a value for average order value and measure that. Is that average order value through better relationships, better cross-selling and upselling, and getting a strategy in place that you're executing should be increasing slowly. You should be seeing that go up, not go down. So your average order value. Then obviously you can divide your revenue goal by your average order value, and that'll give you how many net new customers you need to generate. So again, metric number 3 will be how many new customers, new orders do I need to generate in the next 12 months? So there's a metric there to measure. How long's the sales cycle? We talked about that earlier. So again, you've got to take that into account because the more effective your sales process and the more effective your marketing and your whole growth strategy is, the less your sales cycle should be, because people are more informed, they're more ready to make a decision, you're only talking to the right people. So your sales cycle on average should be reducing, it should be getting less and less. But you need to know that, because you've still got to hit your growth goal in 12 months' time. And then conversion rate. So your sales team should know this inside out, how many leads they get to how many customers. So again, is it 1 in 4? Is it 1 in 5? Get a percentage, 20%, 25%. You may be doing better than that, maybe doing 30%. And again, as you get an effective content, marketing, everybody aligned, working together around these revenue goals, you'll find that that conversion rate will just naturally increase, because you're only talking again to the right leads. Only the right leads are going in the CRM and being handed over to sales as a sales opportunity, as a marketing qualified lead to turn into an opportunity. So again, know your conversion rate there, lead to customer. The other conversion rate we focus heavily on in the early days is that conversion rate of website visitors to leads. So how many website visitors are we getting? Google Analytics will tell you this, HubSpot tells you this. You can see how many people are coming to your website annually, or how many on a monthly basis, and how many of those are you actually turning into a lead in your CRM. So again, you need to make sure that that's a minimum of 2% of your website traffic is being converted. That's our best practice. That's our rule of thumb, is we've got to get every client to at least 2%. Some will get more, some will get quite a bit more than that. But if it's good quality traffic, it's highly targeted, it's the right people you're attracting to your website, you should easily be able to hit 2%. Now, all of you can go away after this and look at your analytics. And we see this all the time, where people are hitting less than 0.1%. It's so small because their website isn't set up to convert. You know, it's a nice glossy brochure. It probably looks very nice, but it isn't set up to convert website visitors into leads in their CRM. So you need a conversion strategy, mapping out of who's the buyer persona, what questions are they asking, what do we put in front of them to make sure they then become a lead, and we're helping them along that process, and we can start nurturing relationships. And how many visitors does your website get monthly can often determine how many that 2% works out at as leads in the database. And obviously, once you know the leads in the database you're getting now from your existing traffic, a lot of clients we speak to actually have plenty of traffic. They want to spend lots of money on pay-per-click ads and lots of ways of generating new traffic. But when you analyze what they've got plenty. It's just not converting at the moment. So is it the quality of the traffic, or is it just that the website hasn't been conversion optimized to convert that? Okay, so hopefully that answers those questions. I'd focus on those 7 or 8 metrics. Obviously, cost of customer acquisition, customer lifetime value. There's lots of other metrics. There's lots of sales metrics we could go into, but I think your first dashboard you need to set up is a way of predictably measuring your business growth. So the website traffic's increasing, and all the way through that converts all the way through. Conversion is the key thing here. If you can get your conversion right, you can easily add volume into that. You know, adding volume and more traffic to most businesses is quite a straightforward process today. So get your conversion points right and make sure it's converting reliably before you spend money on driving more traffic. That'd be my advice. And then there's reporting. Obviously, you can generate lots of reports. You can have sources of traffic. You can have how your blogs, your top landing pages, your top blog posts, how everything's converting, how your website traffic's increasing, your social media engagement. There's lots of reporting. But again, don't get drawn into vanity metrics that actually mean nothing to your growth. They're just metrics that people pump at you and say, oh, look how well we're doing on social media. And all I'd want to know is, well, how many leads has that converted into and how many customers? So again, just be really ruthless with those metrics to start with and make sure you're measuring the right things. It'll just help you make the right decisions. And those data-driven decisions are where you want to get to, not opinions based on, as I say, vanity metrics. Okay, so that's everything for the show this week. Just gone a few minutes over. Sorry about that. Hopefully that's answered everybody's questions. If there's any more questions that you want to send in, the next show that's coming is May the 19th. So Tuesday, May the 19th. There you go. Popped in at the bottom. Thanks, Rach. So Wednesday, 19th of May at 12 noon. And the other thing I recommend everybody does, as you can see here, is just go, if you haven't done the Lead and Revenue Masterclass, the 6 videos in that, it's a free masterclass we set up in January and launched. Go to that link there. I've also dropped the link in the LinkedIn live event chat as well. So you can just click on that, and it's a free course to go through, and we go in real depth about each of these areas. So hopefully that's helpful for you as well. Any other questions that anybody has? If not, we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, the 19th of May. All right, take care.